Hello, welcome to Poppin Predictions, where we believe movies aren't over at the end, but are meant to be continued. You're here with Andy and Marqueze, where we ponder what happens to the story once the credits begin to roll. On today's episode, we will be reviewing the movie Soul. This film follows a New York jazz pianist who, after landing the gig of a lifetime, finds himself trapped in a strange land between Earth and the afterlife. This movie is rated PG for thematic elements and some language. And as always, spoilers ahead. So Andy, do you want to tell us about this movie?
Yeah, of course. So this movie is on Disney Plus. If you haven't seen it already, you can catch it there. But the movie kind of centers around this jazz pianist, like you mentioned, named Joe Gardner, who teaches middle school band, and you can tell that he is really passionate about jazz. Like, I was getting hardcore Whiplash vibes watching this movie because it was just all the jazz music, and like you saw the passion there.
Shout out Whiplash, great movie. Go watch our review on it if you haven't.
But you could tell that like teaching isn't necessarily isn't where he wants to be. Except when he sees one of his students do really well, like he gets really excited seeing one of his students do really well. But like the thing itself, he gets offered a teaching job with like a pension and stuff like that. And he's like, nope. He doesn't turn it down, but he's not excited about it. So he kind of goes and he gets a call from his former student Curly, offered the gig of a lifetime to perform with Dorothea Williams, and he goes, he plays, he gets the gig, and then on his way, like celebrating, he falls down a manhole and he dies, and he gets sent to the afterlife, and he's not ready to go yet. Like he's doing everything he can to not go to the great beyond, which is what they basically refer to as like the pearly gates, because this movie's trying to be non-denominational, and so like there's no like real religion themes here. It's just like
everything's up for interpretation.
Yeah, exactly. So he's able to escape like the kind of like the rolling walkway to heaven by like breaking through a force field, and he lands in the Great Before, rebranded to the U Seminar, where he is a mentor towards new souls who are entering the world. He meets up with this soul called named 22. It's almost like a catch-22 because Soul 22 doesn't want to live until she goes to Earth, and she's like, wow, living is great, but she wouldn't have known that if she didn't go to live. Anyway, they go to Earth. There's this whole thing going on where
I have to stop you real quick with the Jimmy fact. Do you know why 22 was named 22?
No, why don't you share? Please tell us.
Because this is Pixar's had 22 films released before Soul, and so they named her 22 for the 22 films that they had already released.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, but I would hope I was going to have like a deeper meaning. I was hoping for like something really just.
Every place I've talked to is like, it's like a catch-22 sort of thing. But like part of me has to think that like, because of how Pixar and Disney is, like there's always some sort of intentionality behind it. So like I could definitely see that fact being true.
Yeah, I like the catch-22 better, but like all the fun facts I've been finding have been related to the amount of movies they have.
I mean, it's probably accurate. It's a cool little,
that's probably fair.
Awesome Easter egg.
Yeah. So basically, what happens is they are able to go back to the land of living, but Joe's soul goes into a cat, and 22's soul actually goes into Joe's body, and so they meet up with some mystics. The mystics are trying to reverse it, and it kind of ends with Joe being able to they go back to the afterlife, and Joe is able to convince 22 to live, and they give Joe a second chance. And so it kind of ends off with seeing, okay, what's Joe going to do with this second chance? Like, is he going, the life lesson is that, you know, everyone is trying to find their purpose instead of enjoying the moment and doing that kind of stuff. And so there's definitely it's a nice message, but it's also kind of like, is it the best message out there? It's like almost telling you to settle for what you can get in order to be happy in life. and that kind of thing. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie. What did you think of this movie, Marquise?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I had never seen this movie. This first time seeing it, and I wasn't particularly interested. But yeah, we watched it, and it was really good. There were a couple of things that surprised me. So I was constantly surprised about how funny it was. So
yeah, it was hilarious.
I constantly forget how funny some of these Pixar movies are. And how funny they can really be with some of their, slick humor. Like I'm always interested in how they make a children's movie, but still make humor for the adults, who are obviously there in the theater also. And so, it was really funny. I was surprised how funny it was, one, but then two, I was really kind of surprised of how existential this movie was.
Deep.
Like they're at one point 22 is talking about, their all their mentors they had, and they're mentioning all these philosophers and great thinkers and activists and all these people,
Abe Lincoln, Mother Teresa, all of these awesome people.
And it's, I don't know, and it's just kind of it's super funny, but you could tell that a lot of thought about death, life, the meaning of life, the purpose of life, were all questions that they were trying to tackle, all these seriously existentialist questions. And so I was just really surprised. I don't know, I guess I'm not surprised that Disney would decide to tackle the topic, but just more so of I think they did a really good job with it. I was actually kind of surprised. It's kind of very similar to Inside Out, which is
they made the people who made Inside Out made this movie.
Yep, see, that makes perfect.
Yeah,
that makes 100% perfect sense.
The same team that made Inside Out and Monsters Inc. There was another movie that I can't think of off the top of my head that came out of Pixar, but Monsters Inc. and Inside Out were made by the same team.
Yep, 100%. I could see exactly how with Inside Out they were trying to get across not only the theme but an understanding of emotions and how they kind of work with your body, but for this movie, kind of understanding of the self and yourself and compared to the rest of the world around you. And so I just think they did a really good job.
Another quick Jimmy fact, since you brought that up, Andy. I'm not going to give people a number, but if you go back, there is quite a bit of Easter eggs, references to monsters. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to talk about that. There was a 2319 on one of the subway cars, on one of the subways, that Joe drives on. And I was oh wow, that's definitely a nod to that.
Wait, I don't know. I don't get that. What do you mean 2319?
Did you see Monsters Inc.?
I mean, I don't remember what was 2319.
So 2319 is the code that they use, that the monsters use, that whenever there was a human material that made it into the monster universe, it was a code 2319. And so there was a scene in Monsters Inc. where one of the monsters had a sock, and all the monsters are freaking out. They're 2319, 2319. They're all freaking out. And so it was on one of the subway cars. A couple of other Easter eggs I noticed throughout that was in the movie. It's a Disney Pixar movie, so there's a ton of them. And if you are curious about all of them, there are YouTube videos about it. But some of the ones that I noticed, there was the Toy Story ball, the ball that you see is in 22's kind of hangout area where the boxes are. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of there's the 2319 thing that I saw. This is super subtle and it's super easy to miss, but in the subway, in the actual train car, I don't remember the name of the company that from Inside Out that the dad was working for, but there was an ad for the guy's company inside the train car. So
Brang.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah. That's definitely it. So yeah, there's a ton of other ones throughout the entire movie. So if you are curious to try to check, if you love Easter eggs, there's a ton of them throughout the movie.
I don't know. One of my favorite Pixar shorts is the old guys in the park playing chess. I think that was in before Bug
Yes, that's a great one.
Jerry and Jerry's game that they're playing. That was a nod to that chess game.
Really?
That makes a lot of sense. That's
quick side note, I was watching Incredibles 2 last night, and
I'm not gonna lie, that movie's a letdown.
Well, I didn't even get to finish it, so I got to finish it. But
okay.
On Disney Plus, they have like a bunch of the shorts, and they had one called Boundin', and I was like, wait a minute. And I was like, I haven't seen this in years. It's the one with the sheep that likes to dance around, and they shave all its fur off, and it just gets boundin', and like, oh my god, that is such a great 6-minute short.
I missed the shorts that they would used to do before. It seemed like they did that for every classic Disney movie. You'd go in and there'd be a short right before it. They still make shorts now, but I don't know. They just don't. They just are different spirited, I guess. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing like there's they have a short now. I don't remember the name of it, but it's like about a guy coming out to his parents, which like very important. There's another they have another short on Disney Plus that like deals with like interacting with people who have high autism. And so like the shorts that they're making now are definitely really important and definitely kind of more society based, but and stuff like that, but and they're really great. It's just a whole different world. Which I don't have a problem with. It's just different. But getting back to Soul, I think that Pixar does just a really great job of just storytelling. I know that you mentioned that after we finished the movie that like they just are really kind of like expert storytellers where they like know how to like they like it's almost like they break down different emotions and they try to figure out, okay, how can we tell it? Let's pick a theme, let's find emotions, and let's find a way to connect the dots. You know?
Yeah, no, I think, and like, I mean, that's one thing I'm just constantly surprised of, like, how well they do it and, like, how well they kind of play on the heartstrings, because the movie, I mean, you could, for the most part, guess the plot of the movie, like, from the first 20 minutes. It's not going to go anywhere you don't expect it to go. It's not going to, it's a very classic, Disney Pixar film.
And it's very much like enjoy it. Like the central theme of the movie is like enjoy the moments. That's basically what the movie's trying to tell you, instead of like trying to search for a purpose, like enjoy your life.
Yes, but in this world where everyone is kind of always told, like there's something that you're either meant to do or that you got to be good at, or this and this, and the movie's kind of telling you of like, no, like there is no like innate thing that you are meant to do or that you have to do or whatever. Like sometimes you're just a person, and just living in itself is your specialty in a way. Just living in itself is enough. And that's what I really appreciated. Of like, it's not any specific things you achieve. It's not any specific thing you do. It's are you happy? Are you enjoying what you're doing?
Yeah, you know what? One of my favorite scenes in this movie is after after they are able to succeed and put Joe's soul into his body. One of my favorite scenes is like after he performs the gig of his life. Like, yes, he's enjoyed the gig. Like, yes, he had a great time, but at the end of it, he's asking Dorothea like, hey, so like, what's now? And she goes, we just come back here tomorrow and do the same thing all over again. And I think that that's the moment he realizes like, yes, it's his passion to play music, but what he's doing is his job. And it's not like his job isn't going to bring him fulfillment like playing music does. And like, I think the analogy that Dorothea gave where she tells him the story of how this young fish is talking to an old fish, and that the young fish asks the old fish, I'm looking for the ocean. And the old fish is like, you're in it, bud. And the young fish is like, no, this is water. I'm looking for the ocean. And so like, that's just like a message of like, if you spend your whole life looking for this big thing, you're gonna miss out on everything. And so like, that's kind of like that moment for me kind of like made me think about like my current situation, because like, obviously like I'm still job searching. Like I'm still trying to find my next steps. And like my daily routine has been focused a lot on finding that next job, because I put a lot of things on hold to do that, like to find my next job instead of like enjoying certain things. And so watching this movie kind of allowed me to reflect on like, okay, like what are some really cool things that I actually like have been doing in between then. And like, honestly, this podcast, like like I've always enjoyed recording. Like it's always been a fun time hanging out with you and watching movies. But like I don't know, I don't think I've appreciated it as much as like after I watched this movie and was like, wow, like I really have been so deep in the trenches on like applying to jobs and interviewing that like I haven't taken the time to really like enjoy recording or hanging out with my dogs or hanging out with Susan. Like, so I think that this movie does a really good job of like trying to let people know like, hey, if you are waiting for your next step in life, like that, like to start your life, like that you're missing out on so much, because Joseph Gardner is like in his 40s and like it's almost like he even mentions in his afterlife that like when he dies in the beginning that it's like, no, I this can't happen to me right when my life is about to start. So it's like he waited until he got this gig to consider his life starting. But really he spent 40 plus years of his life existing and he never really kind of enjoyed. It doesn't seem like he enjoyed any of it except for like tiny glimpses where you see that he's in the zone playing the piano or seeing other people succeed,
Yeah, no, there's this scene where 22 is still in Joe's body and they just leave the barbershop and 22 asks Joe, asks the barber, like why didn't you tell me any of this stuff about your life before? And the barber's like, well, you never asked. Like you didn't care. Like you weren't really present. And he was like, all you ever did was really talk about piano. And
and before that, Joe tells 22 that he was born to be a barber. So very much focused on his profession and very much focused on like his job instead of anything about him as a person,
Yeah, anything at all about him as a person. And so I think, and like Joe's in the body of a cat. And so like Joe's just kind of sitting there thinking, and it's just like, oh, wow. Like I never really did ask, this guy about his life, about anything like that. And just again, Joe's eyes are always just so set on the future and so set on achieving this one thing that was hard to recognize just life itself as a gift or as something worth living. And so, yeah, I just think this overall, there's just so many points where this movie just does that really well. Because with 22, all the mentors try to get 22 to really like Earth because of this or this or this or this. There's these things you could do, all these different things, and never did 22 really actually want to do it. It wasn't until 22 actually experienced life itself and just got to live and was like, oh wow, this is pretty dope. Like this is like I'm actually enjoying living.
Exactly. Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, there was another thing I was going to say, but I completely lost my train of thought. But
I'm curious. How'd you feel about the pacing of this movie? In terms of like from beginning to end, how like do you think that? Because I don't know, I always feel sometimes with these Pixar movies that it's a very basic plot structure of you have our protagonist, and then you have some type of conflict that happens, and then there's another character added to the story that is supposed to, that either they have to like pick up alongside them or carry through, but that character ends up being a big benefit and actually helps them overcome the conflict. Like it's every Pixar story, like Toy Story is incredible, like all of these same stories. And so for me, the part of whether I like a movie or not typically goes on at what point does how do I say it? Do they smoothly transition through all the points, or do they like kind of waste a lot of time? And personally, with this movie, I felt that it actually did a pretty good job of timing it to where I don't remember seeing myself as bored at any point in time.
No,
and I felt like they got to the point they wanted to get to fairly quickly and didn't have like a ton of fluff.
Yeah, I will say, I agree with you that like I never felt bored or anything. I wish that they didn't spend as much time in like the afterlife sequences, because I enjoyed, maybe it's because I'm a New Yorker, that like I enjoyed seeing the city and stuff like that. But like my favorite parts of the movies were when they were exploring different parts of the city and like stuff like that. And I felt like I got a decent amount of that, but it would have been cool to see more of that.
I like the afterlife sequences the most because like I like to see where the creativity went of how
that's
describe things
where
and what they wanted to do.
That's kind of where you get that's kind of where it's interesting because like you definitely see the similar, at least for me, you see some of the similarities between this movie and Inside Out, from like, like obviously they both take place in major metropolitan areas, Inside Out, San Francisco, Seoul and New York. But like they both have like Seoul is like afterlife, and Inside Out is like your internal body, like what's going on inside you and your emotions and stuff like that. So like they have like their different realms, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I'm describing this perfectly, but like they both have like the different planes of existence while it's taking place in this like other environment. I definitely feel like this movie is connected. Like I feel like Seoul is like, maybe because they're trying to get like the Earth Pass. And so like to me, I feel like the Earth Pass is like, in like the parts of the Earth Pass is like different parts of their emotions and different parts of their experiences and like things that their values. And so to me, like I the connection piece to Inside Out is like, how like for the main protagonist of Inside Out, I can't remember the name, like the little girl, like she had like the different islands, like she had like Family Island, Hockey Island, stuff like that. Like that's kind of where I see the correlation, the connection between the two, where like the Earth Pass might be like the foundation for like the worlds from Inside Out,
Oh yeah, I never even thought about that, but I wouldn't be surprising. Yeah, I mean, they 100% seem like they could easily be in the same universe. Like there's no reason they couldn't be. But I had a question. So I can't remember what they called it in the film, but the character Moonwind, who's kind of like this hippie dude.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. But the character Moonwind constantly talks about this other state of being that some people might call it like being in the zone, right?
Yes.
So he describes it as when you're doing something you like. So for Joe's playing piano.
Yeah, right. Knicks.
That was way too funny. But yeah, he talks about like Joe playing piano, and like when Joe's playing piano, he'll close his eyes and like, you just feel like you're in another world.
You're in like another plane of existence.
I can't remember the exact phrase it's used, but yeah, they describe it as this other plane of existence. So we're like,
they call it the zone. I think they refer. There's a specific term, but they call it the zone.
Okay,
well.
Then that's fine. But yeah, you're just in the zone, or when you think of like a great sports player, where like that's all they're focused on at that moment, like the rest of the world does not exist. And I was just wondering, Andy, do you feel like are there things that you do or times where like you feel like you're like that,
Oh, geez, I had to catch myself. I was about to make this an explicit podcast. I'm going to be honest. I definitely feel that when I'm recording, like when I am sitting and like having this like conversations with you, like I feel like I'm able to like tune out the world around me and like just like focus on like sitting in this chair and like I don't know. I feel like I'm in like a different place when I'm like talking to you and stuff like that. That's really deep.
Thank you.
Yeah, no. Let's see. Other times. Dang, I wish I had. This is why
I wish I had something prepared.
I wish I had something prepared. Dang, I wish we had those 3 to 5 talking points. No, yeah, I'm gonna stick with recording, but I know there are other times. I just can't think of any.
Jimmy, what about you?
What about you, Jimmy?
So over this pandemic, I've taken up woodworking as a thing.
Yeah, did you make any more islands for people?
I haven't yet. I might, because I'm sick and tired of moving the one that I built. But I think just that of like, it's a really big passion of mine, and I enjoy doing it on the side. And I thought about like, do I just do this full time because I like it so much? But it then becomes not something I think I would enjoy as much, because now it's what I'm doing for money or to survive in the world, and that's not necessarily what I want it to be. I just want it to be an escape. And when I go, I have a friend, his name's Steve. I go out to a little farm that he lives on, and on the weekends, and build cabinets and other things like that, which is a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, I had a former supervisor that like was really into woodworking as well. he used to make like a whole bunch of different stuff, but he also went into like I don't know if commercializing is right, but making into like a business and selling stuff. So that's really cool. What about you, Marquise? When are you in the zone?
So I mean, there's probably a few different things, but the one I could think of that comes right off the top of my head is when I'm listening to music. Like more specifically, if I'm like in a mosh pit at a concert, like nothing else exists.
Oh, yes.
Like I used to go
Bring me back to those concerts.
I used to go to like a lot of heavy metal shows in college, and like just like something about like just being in a mosh pit and there's just incredibly loud music and all these bodies like colliding. It's just nothing else exists. There's no other world. My mind's nowhere else. It's just currently in just like weird state to where like I'm not even consciously thinking about what I'm doing. I'm just in the zone. Like there's just no other way to put it. But I mean, I would get it like either playing sports or like whatever. But like that's probably like the starkest like idea I could think of.
I think actually when I think again of like some other times I feel like I'm in the zone, I feel like I'm in the zone when I'm also like, I don't know, I really like sports. So like whenever I'm at like a UCF football game or whenever I'm at like, it's been a while since I've been to a Yankee game, but like, man, like if I could end up back if I could end up back in New York and like go to a Yankee or even a Mets game, like I'll even settle for a Mets game. And just like, I think like just being in like the stands, like it's just like the atmosphere, like what you're saying, like when you go to concerts and like you're like mosh pitting with people, like I feel like that is contributing to like being in the zone, was like being with people that are like together in like a community. And like that's what I feel like when I'm in the zone, like when I'm at a Yankee game or I'm a Met game, like rooting for the team, like, or even a UCF game, because I mean UCF game, like you could just freaking do chants all the time. And so like I don't know, like I feel like that's when I'm also in the zone, is just like when I'm with other people, like, and like we're all like part of a community. You know?
No, I know exactly how I feel, and I feel like everyone has like a certain thing they might do that like gets into that space, and I think it's like a really beautiful element when you can. The character in this movie, Moonwind, he gets to that space when he's like twirling a sign around, you know, like he's a sign twirler on the side of a street, but he is getting it, like he's in his zone, just spinning his side, just like having a good old time, and it's so fun to watch.
It was also really funny. You know, it's funny that you mentioned that. Like, they're talking about the zone, and there's this like the zone is in this area between like being in the passion, like, so, you know, for living folks, like you're either in the zone or there's lost souls, and maybe that's might be like the realm of lost souls, where like people like are so deep in trying to find their purpose that they lose themselves. And there's like a scene where like this hedge fund person is like so stuck in his ways of like trying to just between buying and selling, and they like break him out of his trance, and like he like goes and like when he wakes up in his real world, like he just throws everything aside, like he flips desks and he's like, I'm gonna live life to the fullest here. And it's just like really cool thing to see.
Yeah. So I have another question. So one thing I noticed in this film was there was no bad guy. Like I thought it was going to be Terry.
I think Terry could be the bad guy. I think Joe, I think in a way is his own worst enemy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think so. I think
Joe. You could make the argument that Joe is like the protagonist as well as the antagonist in this one.
Like Terry, who's like, I don't know, I would almost say like the Grim Reaper. He like manages those going to like the afterlife. I don't know.
He's
like
not,
this film's version of it. He manages the dead, and when the dead aren't there, he goes and collects them.
He counts them. Yeah, I mean,
and he went out and collected them when he wasn't there. So like,
I don't know. I feel
just gonna throw it out there.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna throw it out there. According to the Disney fandom page, Terry is the antagonist.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, because Terry's the driving force behind everything here. Like yes, I think if Terry wasn't here, like, I don't know, I feel like Joe wouldn't feel as rushed to like get everything figured out, and so Terry's like the person that's like driving the movie forward.
Sure, you could say that, but I guess he's not the bad guy because he's only doing his job.
He doesn't have like he's the bad guy because he's doing his job. Like literally, that's why he's the bad guy.
His character was supposed to die, and this character's not trying to die. And Terry's like, "Well, no, you're supposed to go on that other side. We gotta go." And so like all Terry is doing is like continuing the process, and it's Joe that's like refusing. Like Joe's the one creating the conflict by not. Like by refusing to die, and
what's really interesting. I'm glad you actually brought this up, and I know this is completely derailing for what you're saying, but like I just have to say, like I know that you haven't seen Coco, so like this is like you're not going to completely get this, but like the main character in Coco like enters the afterlife, and then he comes back, and then also he. Like, I'm going to spoil the movie for you, and I'm, like, really sorry.
Whoa, no.
Okay. I'll say that for you. Like, I'll cut it out. I won't say what happened. But, like, let's just say there's a lot of interference with the afterlife.
Yeah.
And so I'm really curious, like, how he accounts for the count for that. Like, and then also, like, does he just, like, forget about that day? Because the whole, like, this isn't, like, a spoiler because, like, it's just part, like, it's part of the religion, like, the holidays, like, they believe that, like, it's the day that, like, that's the family members who have passed on come back and they get to experience life with them for one more day, and then, like, it's the one day of the year that they come back. So, like, does he just, like, not count that as, like, going back and forth? Like, and then, like, I would love to see, like a Soul Coco crossover here, where, he's like keeping count of like the souls that like don't go back to the afterlife, and stuff like that. Like I think that would be kind of like an interesting short. But yeah, I don't want to. I'm gonna cut it there because I know that like if I say any more, like I don't want to accidentally spoil something because I like Coco more than Soul. Like I not to take anything away from Soul, but Coco like is just such an amazing movie, and we will be doing that at some point for the podcast. But like. I don't know, something that so like there's no like real emotional moment, which is really weird for like a newer Pixar movie. Like the older Pixar movies, I don't think have like real tear jerk. I mean, actually, no, I take that back. There are tear jerking moments. Like I don't think Soul has like a real tear jerking moment throughout the entire movie.
I disagree. I feel like there is some.
Well, like you think of Inside Out, and you think of like Bing Bong's like final scene. Like that was a scene where I was like, "Oh gosh!" Like right in the feels and stuff like that. And like I never felt like I was like there was never a moment where I was like, "Dang!" Like is someone cutting onions in here? Like I never had that.
Really?
Like,
oh, dude, the scene where 22 is now stuck out in the land of the lost or whatever, the people who are disengaged from reality but aren't there, and seeing 22 turn into this big evil character, and everything bad that all of 22's mentors ever said to 22 are kind of just like replaying and said, and then like the last big enemy 22 sees is Joe himself saying that like, you're either like not supposed to be here or this, or just saying all these negative things, and then Joe has to come face to face with the fact that he himself was contributing to not I want to say low self-esteem, but just this whole idea that 22 is not worthwhile. And to me, that scene was just like, dang. Yeah, that got me.
I mean, yeah, it's like dang, but like I don't know, like it didn't make me want to cry or anything. Like
I thought that was sadder than that other character's death.
No, dude, what are you talking about, bro? No, no way, that's more sad. Oh gosh, dang.
How about audience? You can judge for yourself when you see the film. You can let us know.
Which scene is more sad? The 22 confronting Joe Gardner confronting himself, like bullying 22, or Bing Bong's final scene helping Joy escape the land of like that valley that they get stuck in. I definitely think it's the Inside Out, but it's fine. But you were going to ask a question. I don't know if you remember your own question. You were talking about like, I don't even remember what you were talking about.
One thing I was just going to kind of say is that I was not the biggest fan of the ending in the sense of how they actually gave Joe a second chance at life. I'm not a huge fan of how they kind of still promoted this cheat death moment in terms of like, hey, you did enough good things, so now you get a second chance. Like, I know that happens to be Disney's MO a lot, but
it's the kids movie. I think that's why. I think at the end of the day, like, it's a kids movie, so I think that's why. I think if this was for adults, like, I don't think that you're gonna see that second chance.
Oh, of course, but like even with kids movies, like I mean, this whole movie they're tackling like a really tough topic, but actually doing it in a really good way, and in a way that I think kids will be able to understand and like kind of move on with. And so I just felt like Disney's obviously creative enough to have been able to make a continuation or like an ending of this film.
Hey, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, right. But to make an ending of this film where Joe dies, and to be honest, that might have been like even the bigger sad moment that you're looking for, where Joe actually does die, has to move on, realize that he didn't appreciate his life, and now 22 like bears that inspiration. You know,
I think if it was like there, I will say there was like a deep moment when Joe is like, it's towards the end of the movie. It's not like at the end, but it's getting close. It's definitely in like 2/3 of the way through the movie when Joe is like reliving his love for jazz, and like you see all of the memories that he had with his father. I think that's a pretty sad moment where, like, you know, because he's reliving all of his memories, and of course, like, his dad comes into play because his dad is the first person that gets him into jazz, and then, like, you know, he's playing the piano next to his father, and his father is like really loving, like, he's loving it. And then there's a scene where like both his mom, who's actually a very critical character in the movie that we have not talked a lot about, but like there's like a scene where like they're at a beach and like the ocean water is washing up like shortly after the father passes away. And so like to me that's like they probably had him cremated and spread his ashes in the water and stuff like that. And that's definitely a tear-jerking thing. I felt like I would have, honestly, again, we're going to disagree here. I would have been really disappointed with how they set up the movie if they ended it with Joe not getting a second chance. Not saying that like I would have. I think with how like I was saying, like I think with how they set up the movie, he was supposed to get a second chance, and if he didn't get that second chance, I would have been like, well, like you just destroyed the movie because like this whole thing was about him learning to enjoy life, and like you don't even let him get the opportunity to take that lesson and do it. If this story was like not about Joe Gardner, like it's like split between Joe Gardner and 22, where like he's trying to convince 22 to live, but like the whole movie is about like him getting his second chance. And I think if he never got that second chance, I would have been like, well, this movie's actually kind of trash. But if they were to focus more on 22, not saying that he didn't give her enough attention, but like if they would have focused more on 22 and like convincing her to live, then I would have been like, okay, like he's sacrificing his second chance so that 22 can like experience life. Like I think that I would have been okay with that sort of ending.
Yeah, I mean that's I would have been fine with that too. Like I don't think the point of it was for Joe to get a second chance. I think the point was Joe learning something about life in itself, and so I would have been fine with Joe learning that thing about life, passing it on 22, and then Joe dying. So I would have been fine with that. Like Joe doesn't need to continue living, and so I just think that was a gimmick that was unnecessary because they already have someone for him to pass on this new knowledge to now live a better life, and so.
That's true. I don't know. Like I said,
it's Disney. I mean, it's Disney. They sell cute. Cute is their brand, and so bringing somebody back to life is like
exactly.
No,
I'm not opposed to that ending. I just think with how the movie was telling its story, that like it wasn't leading to that. Like that's just not how the story was. I
felt like it was leading to him finally getting the chance to do the performance on stage, and he got there, and so it was all leading to that moment, and he did get that chance.
That's true.
So
that's true. I don't know. But anyway.
Hey, dude, so now that y'all kind of got the end of basically kind of what happens, how do you see this script continuing?
Yeah, so so I'll give like the shot by shot sort of end sort of sequence here. So they have that scene that Marqueze was talking about where 22 is in the land of Lost, and it's up to Joe to save 22. So Joe's able to do that, and by helping 22 realize like the joy in life, she earns her Earth pass and she's able to pass on. But she is conflicted because she wants to go back to the land of living, but she also like doesn't want to leave Joe behind. She doesn't feel like she's ready, and so Joe is like, "Hey, I'll go with you for as far as we can go." And so they jump through the youth seminar, the land before, and as they're falling, like they start separating, and you see 22 start heading towards Earth. She's actually heading towards Asia, which is pretty interesting. I'm curious to know at some point. I don't know if she's going into a current Pixar character's body, or if there's another movie coming out that she's going to become. But like, it'd be cool to find out what soul she becomes. But anyway, she heads there, and Joe gets taken back to the escalator to the land, the great beyond, and Jerry comes out and offers Joe a second chance. And so what I think happens next is there's like at least two scenes where 22, where Joe has a love interest, and I don't remember the name of the love interest, but like he never pursued love because he was trying to get his next break in jazz. And so there's like a scene where 22 asks Joe, like, "Hey, are you going to call this person or whatever?" And he says, "No, I got to focus on this gig right now." And so I think when Joe wakes up, the first thing he's going to do is one of the first things he does is he's going to contact his love interest. Mm-hmm. And I think that he's going to, I don't know if settle down is the right word, but I think he's going to share his passion with her, and he's going to he's going to try to start a family or of some sorts with her. It'd be pretty cool if he adopted a cat. With the whole thing. Crazy like, guy. I think he goes back. I think that he was offered the teaching job. Mm-hmm. I honestly think that he's going to stop performing jazz with Dorothea, and I think that he's going to go back and accept the middle school teaching job, because I think that he got more enjoyment. And I wish I remembered the name of the student, but like he got more enjoyment seeing the student succeed than he did when he was performing. And so I think he's going to accept the teaching job and become a middle school teacher to help other students kind of get that passion and like kind of do that kind of thing, and help his students like learn to enjoy life a little bit more while having this new relationship with the person he comes back to. But what do you think?
So, two things. One, I couldn't agree more. But two, you're also gonna hate me after this. So,
listen. We survived Whiplash. Like, if you want to see an episode where I legitimately got mad at Marquise, like, listen to our episode on Whiplash. So, if we made it through that, I'm sure I won't hate you after this.
So, what I see happening is, yes, like I think Joe realizes, I don't see Joe's life changing. I see Joe finally appreciating his life, kind of like you mentioned. So like, I don't really see him playing in Dorothea's band. I see him being the middle school teacher. I see him enjoying talking to the person at the barbershop, enjoying being around his mom more. Like it's enjoying the life he already has and finally loving it, right? But I see him, start to realize what his passion, and as much as his passion is playing music, it's really teaching. Also, as we kind of see, like he's a teacher. He was the one to able to get 22 finally to learn things, not all these other legendary teacher mentors from
Muhammad Ali, all these other great stuff,
right? And so he realizes, I have a gift for this, and I love jazz. How cool would it be if I could teach the next great jazz musician in the world?
You think he's going to become the next, what's his name? You think he's going to become the next teacher?
He's going to be the next Fletcher. I think if you've seen Whiplash, and if you know who Fletcher is.
No way.
I think
There's no way. Maybe, no.
Yes.
Not to Fletcher's degree. Not to Fletcher's degree. Like, there's no way
he can use a different method.
Completely different method. Like, they're two completely different teaching styles here, dude.
That'd be so funny if Soul Part 2 is just Whiplash Part 2. To be honest, like Joe's just yelling at the girl. play better. Are those tears?
Are you rushing or are you dragging?
Just throws your trumpet across the classroom.
He throws his piano across. It's a Pixar movie. He can do whatever he wants. Oh no!
I think, like, all jokes aside, though, I think I would love to see him really finding his role as a teacher and like him really helping, because like the drummer he taught is now playing in Dorothy Williams' band. Like he's obviously a good teacher.
Yeah,
and so to see him
You're
really
right.
live life through his like prodigies, basically. Like I think everyone has a certain skill set, and like that doesn't mean he still can't play Dorothy's band and whatnot.
Right.
But I think it's just learning to enjoy where you're at, while also being able to like pursue other things. And I think his was just so focused on the pursuit, he wasn't able to enjoy where he was at ever.
Okay. At first, I was like, no way. But I think the differences between it, let's say that does happen. Joe becomes like the teacher, becomes a teacher. Does that route. I don't think he's going to be looking to find the next jazz legend because of this experience. I think he's going to try to like help people enjoy life. And maybe he does that through helping them learn jazz music and stuff like that. I don't think he's going to try to push someone to become the next great thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think if he does, it won't be in the sense of like him forcing it. I think it would be like a natural. Like
I think he'd be more of a mentor figure, that because Fletcher, I don't like Fletcher is not Fletcher's not a mentor. Like Fletcher's
he's definitely not a mentor.
He's definitely not a mentor.
He's a trainer. He's a trainer.
Exactly. 100%. So Joe would probably be more of like a mentor type teacher, and like that's how I would see his style. And so I don't think you'd see the next like legend coming.
Dude, I'm telling you, I want the person who wrote Whiplash though to write Soul 2. Like, I think this would be such a awesome film, especially if 22 happens to be in Joe's class. That would be so perfect. Joe's just yelling at 22, "Get it together!"
You're killing me, Smalls.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Jimmy, do we have any more Jimmy facts before we go into our rating system?
Yeah, we do here. And they're going to play, I've never given a prediction before, but I'm going to do it this time.
Hey.
Okay, let's go!
Big. I got two here.
Let's go!
First off, so I think going down the stream of like, what happens if we follow 22 into a body, right? Mm-hmm. This is where it's going to get wild. This could not happen. But I want it to. I'm a big fan of Big Hero 6.
Oh,
right? Okay. And you kind of see your head towards Asia, and Big Hero 6. You don't really know what time, or I think they give the time of.
Well, they actually say that time doesn't matter in the before time, so she could go into a soul that already has existed, or a soul that's going to exist, or a current one. So it doesn't necessarily time doesn't matter here.
Yeah. So I think she becomes like the next group, like next person in the Big Hero 6 like team. And I think that would be awesome. I also think the time here plays into that because you're in Seoul, you're obviously in New York, right?
Yeah.
Angela Bassett plays Dorothea. And if you don't know Angela Bassett,
she's
shame
been
on
in
you.
a couple things. She's been in a couple things,
a couple.
If you need a couple things here and there.
Yeah. If you need, like, what does she look like? She was T'Challa's mother in Black Panther.
Yep.
I think a lot of people recognize her from that.
If you watch, what's it called? 911, which I don't know I don't think many people here that listen to the podcast watch 911, but she's in the TV show 911 as like one of the cops.
I am on the podcast and I watch 911.
Okay,
so
perfect. There we go. There we go.
But so was from New York. That's where she was born and grew up. And she said like the scenery in Seoul reminded her very strongly of Hell's Kitchen in New York. So they did a really good job of like demonstrating that it always felt like, yeah, it's New York, it's a big city, but like from someone who's from New York, like that she said it felt like that, which I thought was really cool. So I think that's if like you're following 22 and it's just like anything could happen, right?
Right.
Big Hero 6. Now, if we're following Joe, I think he becomes the middle school teacher. They actually made Joe jazz musicianist because they're originally thinking that he would be an actor or a scientist, but they didn't they felt like the jazz musician had way more of a like feeling of Joe was selfless, wanted to help others, like that, like it would play more into the themes, and so that's why they changed it to the jazz musicianist. But I think he becomes the middle school teacher, and then the second one is him actually helping a student of his beyond that who like is dealing with the same things that he dealt with in the afterlife and before times, and how like that would play out. He would mentor like a real person. But if that happens, 22 Edna Mode, you will not change my mind. She is Edna Mode. That's who she goes into in that storyline. Thank you very much.
Jimmy coming in here with the hot takes, the hot, fresh takes. I love it. Gosh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I'm just gonna say it. How funny would it be if Joe teaches? Gosh, I'm so bad at remembering Pixar character names, but I think it would be really funny if Joe teaches the kid from Coco. Like that would just be really funny because he's a guitarist. Because he kid plays a guitar, so it'd be really funny if he teaches. But obviously, they take place in two completely different areas.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty funny, but awesome. Okay, so.
Hang on, just for accuracy, as the person who fact checks everything, Miguel. You're thinking of Miguel.
Yes.
I had to throw it out.
Thank you. Yes, if Joe were to teach Miguel, that would be hilarious. It's not going to happen because one's in New York and one's in Mexico, so it's not going to happen. But it would just be really funny if it did. But anyway, we're going to our rating system. If you're new here. We use a popcorn rating scale where, if we give something a small, it's, think of like out of 1 to 10, like if we give it a small bucket, it's a 1 to 3. It wasn't really good. Like probably not worth your time. Skip it. If you give it a medium bucket, think of it as like, it's worth to watch, have it on your watch list, but not really worth it. Not high up there, probably like a 4 to 6. And if we give it a large bucket, it's really good. Put it towards the top. It's 7 to 9. Like it's definitely worth the watch. Gotta go watch it now. And if we give it a big bucket, 10 out of 10, 10 plus, like go, like stop what you're doing. I don't care if you're like in your passion, if you're in the zone, you need to stop what you're doing and watch the movie. And so, I'm curious to know. I'll start with Jimmy. Where would you put Soul for our rating scale?
That's a great question. I've been struggling with this one a bit. I think I'm going large with some mutter. I really liked it. I think it's watchable multiple times. I think it should be up there. I think it has a lot of great story, has a lot of great representation, and I also am a sucker for jazz music. I love jazz, so like that's why it's getting that for me.
You like jazz?
Yeah, I personally felt. I do like jazz. I personally felt that it was a little slow on pacing, and so I think that's why I'm not giving it a big bucket.
Yeah.
Like I think it could have been a little bit quicker, but overall, amazing movie to me.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Marquise?
I'm probably going to give it the exact same rating. I was only going to give it a large just for being just a really, really solid Pixar film. But I'm going to give it a large for some butter because of like really like the topic too. Like I haven't really seen Pixar touch this topic. And so seeing them touch such a difficult topic to talk about and doing it in a children's movie and doing it really well, I really appreciated. And
I mean, they here's your connection to Toy Story. They do talk about existentialism in Toy Story where like Buzz is like trying to figure out like, is he a toy or if he's a space ranger, but it's different in the sense of like, become like life, like actual human life versus like a toy coming to grips that he's actually a toy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, fair, but I hate Toy Story, so that's what it is.
I always have to bite my tongue whenever you say something stupid like that.
What about you? What do you think of this?
Yeah, I would give this a large. This was a really good movie, and I know when I say after this, like you're gonna think less of like my opinion, but like you as the listener, but like It was good. It was definitely worth the watch, and I definitely agree. I enjoyed multiple watching of this. It's just, to me, it's just not as good as other Pixar movies. Like, I feel like Inside Out was much better than this. I felt like some of the other classic Pixar movies were better. That being said, Soul is definitely worth the watch. It was really good. So I'm going to give it a large, just a solid large for me. So Marquise, do you have any sort of like announcements or final things to say before we wrap this thing up?
Yes, actually, just two things real quick. So one, we are finally on Apple Podcast. Sorry it took so long, but yeah. So you can finally listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all that. But we're now also on YouTube, our audio version of our podcast. So if you like me, yes, or some people are different, and you listen to your podcast on YouTube, you can now listen to us on YouTube. Just normal Poppin predictions. So just want to put that out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the audio for now, but we're hoping to get our visuals up and running. It's just going to give us some more time for that. We're a small team here. So, yeah, thank you all again. We're all curious to know, what did you think of our continuation of Soul? Did you agree with it? Let us know, when do you all feel like you're in the zone? We're really curious to know that, kind of get to know our audience a little bit. So, yeah, let us know when you feel like you're in the zone. Please follow us on Twitter at Poppin Predict and on Instagram at poppinpredictions.pod to let us know your thoughts on how you think this movie could continue. Until then, keep popping, everyone.